Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. I'd like to call the meeting to order and acknowledge that we're in Treaty 1 territory, the home and traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Ojibwe, Innu, Cree, and Dakota peoples, and in the national homeland of the Red River Métis. Our drinking water comes from Shoal Lake 40 First Nation in Treaty 3 territory. My name is Lynn Nesbitt, and I'll be chairing the panel today. Joining me on the panel are Richard Whitbread and Diane Knight. The secretary to the board is Jaswinder Kumar, and our assessor is Darren Ducharme. To the Zoom participants of the hearing, please note, you are placed in the waiting room until your property is called upon. When it is your turn, you will be admitted into the meeting. Kindly follow along on the City of Winnipeg's Board of Revision YouTube channel for the hearing process. Once the host admits you into the hearing, please close or mute your YouTube player. You will then be permitted to speak with respect to your property. Once your hearing has concluded, you can leave the meeting. We will be hearing applications for revision of the assessment roll in accordance with the Municipal Assessment Act. The matters for which revision is requested have been described in each application, and we will limit discussion to those matters. The statements that are made at this hearing are sworn testimony, and anyone speaking to the matters must be sworn in. Be advised that comparisons of assessments of properties are not considered evidence of market value by the Board of Revision. The Board of Revision is appointed annually by Council and is independent of it and the City Administration. It makes its decisions on the basis of the evidence provided at this hearing and issues a written order that will be mailed to all parties as soon as possible. Please note that the board's decisions with respect to an application may be appealed to the Manitoba Municipal Board if the matter pertains to assessed value or classification, or to the Court of King's Bench if the matter pertains to the application of exemptions from taxation. Should you wish to appeal, information on how to do so will be included with the board's order. With respect to the hearing process, I will confirm the points of appeal with your property to be addressed with each applicant following the swearing in. We will then have the assessor's testimony followed by questions that the applicant may have, and then the applicant's testimony followed by questions. Each side will have an opportunity to summarize if they wish. Once all of the evidence about an application have been brought forward, the applicant may leave. The process will repeat for each item on the docket today. The session will close after all the applications have been heard, and the board will deliberate in private and make its decisions. You will receive the board's decision by registered mail as soon as possible. As information, all public hearings are live streamed, recorded, and will be part of the public record. We will be hearing items 1 to 7 on our docket today. Mr. Kumar, please affirm the assessor's and applicant's testimony.
Yes, Madam Chair. Thank you. Mr. Assessor, please state your full name.
Darren Ducharme.
Thank you. Do you affirm that the evidence you are about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Mr. Applicant, please state your full name.
Trevor Smith.
Thank you. Do you affirm that the evidence you are about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Please sit.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kumar, and good morning, Mr. Ducharme and Mr. Smith. Our first item on our agenda today is 1075 Salter Street. Before we begin, are there any preliminary issues that either party would like to raise?
No, thank you.
No? Okay. And the its valuation that's under appeal this morning?
It is.
Okay. Thank you very much. Mr. Ducharme, then you can begin with your presentation, please.
Thank you. File number is 22-2971. The roll number is 110-301-96000. The address is 1075 Salter. The roll year is 2023 with a reference date of April 1st, 2021. The assessed value is $403,000. The parcel use is vacant commercial. The zoning is C2. The land area is 11,492 square feet. And our recommendation is to maintain the 2023 assessed value. On page 2 is an aerial parcel view of the subject. It has access off Salter and Partridge. On page 3 is an aerial photograph of the subject property. It's located in close proximity to Main Street. And on the bottom of page 3, you see a Google Street View of the subject property. On page 4, top of page 4, no recent sales history for the subject. We have a land valuation summary with an area of 11,492 square feet. At a rate of $35.07 being applied, we have a land value of $403,000. Below that, we have our land sale comparables. Comparable 4 is in an adjacent neighborhood to the subject. All other comparables are located in the same region of the subject, which is Transcona-Kildonan. All comparables are zoned the same as the subject. The comparables are somewhat older sales, and the time adjustment, which hasn't been completed, would surely increase the value. On page 5, comparable 1, 2033 Henderson Highway. It's located about 5 kilometers in the same region as the subject, has the same parcel use and zoning as the subject. It sold January 27th, 2015 for $36.54. There's currently a 4-story condominium building on that site. Comparable 2, on page 6, comparable 2, 775 Henderson Highway. This one's located about 6 kilometers from the subject in the same region as the subject. It has the same parcel use and zoning as the subject. It sold October 2nd, 2018 for $27.25 per square foot. There's now a commercial strip center, 1-story on that site. On page 7, comparable 3, 865 Henderson Highway. This one's located about 5.5 kilometers in the same region as the subject. It has the same parcel use and zoning as the subject. It sold February 7th, 2018 for $39.29 per square foot. And it's now a 3-story office building. Page 8, comparable 4, 1731 Main Street. This one's located about 1.5 kilometers away in an adjacent neighborhood to the subject. It has the same parcel use and zoning as the subject. It sold July 10th, 2018 for $41.26. And there's now a 2-story office building on the subject that might not be yet completed. And on page 9, comparable 5, 2480 Main Street. It's located about 3 kilometers from the subject in the same region, has the same parcel use and zoning as the subject. Very close in area to the subject at 11,876 square feet to the subject's 11,492 square feet. It sold December 23rd, 2019 for $37.47 per square foot. This property was purchased by the adjacent owner to help with their access to their current business. Page 10 is the municipal act excerpts, and that would conclude my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ducharme. Mr. Smith, do you have any questions?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do have a few, yes. Looking at the sale comparables, Mr. Ducharme, on page number 4. So I think you had stated that these are all in the same area as the subject?
Same region.
Okay. So when I guess I follow you there. When I look at the addresses, though, 3 of them are across the river in the East Kildonan, right? Not in the Main Street area.
Yes, I defer that to you. Yes.
Okay. And looking at the comparables again. So comparable number 1 on Henderson Highway there, that's immediately abutting a relatively new commercial strip mall. Is that?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, that's accurate.
And that would be in an area, a relatively affluent area as well. Is that fair to say?
I would say that's fair in comparison to the subject, yeah.
Okay. Second property, I believe we have in common, comparable number 3. So 865 Henderson Highway. You had said that has been developed, correct?
Yes, I believe 3-story office building there.
Okay, so Fort Group accountants have developed their own property there. Is that correct?
I'll defer that to you, yes.
Okay.
In terms of the company name, yes.
Okay. And comparable number 4, now we're on Main Street. This is quite a small lot that's located in between existing street front retail, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And that would be about 1/5 of the size of the subject?
It is, yes.
Okay.
Quite small, yes.
And then finally, well, I'll deal with that in my presentation, as I think we have that in common as well. Comparable number 5. Those are all of my questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Mr. Whitbread, do you have any questions?
Yeah, just one quick question. Is there an economy of scale as you look at a 26,000 square foot versus a 2,569 square foot? Is there any economy of scale in a larger versus smaller property? When you
Yes, I would think so, yes. Yeah, the smaller would be larger value, yes.
higher value?
As you get larger, yes, as you get larger. Lot sizes, the scale of value would come down. Yes.
Thank you. No further questions.
Thank you. Ms. Knight, do you have any questions?
No questions, thank you.
Okay. And yeah, my question, it was really also about the location of the comps being on the other side of the river in EK. And so the 2 comps, which one do you think is the best comp, Mr. Ducharme?
I think the one, in my view, that would most match, I guess, would be comparable 5, I guess, in terms of the area.
So just on the basis of size?
Same zoning, same parcel use. It's one of the more recent sales I have.
Okay, can I ask you if there's a difference in exposure to a busy street, and does that make a difference? Would Salter be considered the same sort of street, for lack of better words, as Main Street or Henderson?
No, it wouldn't be. I mean, the traffic significantly more on Main Street, Henderson. Salter would be considered sort of a medium traffic street, so there would be that traffic and exposure for the comparables.
Okay, I think that's all the questions I have. Mr. Smith, when you're ready then.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So we're looking at 1075 Salter Street today. I have an image of the property on the cover page of my document there, so you can see what it is vacant lot, zone C2, just under 11,500 square feet. It is used for automobile storage for the adjacent property, which is a used automobile dealer, which we'll see in my my aerial photograph of the area. The subject property sold as part of a 2-parcel trade back in 2012, which also included the adjacent property, 1065 Salter, which has the 1,950 square foot used automobile dealership on it. So that's just to explain the past sales history of the subject. We have a couple of photos on page number 2 for you to see, and then the site description is shown on page number 3, giving you the location. So it is on the east corner of Salter and Partridge to the south of Leela. So Leela and Partridge each being one-way directional streets off of Main Street. It's a somewhat irregular parcel, and access to the parcel is off of Salter Street. If we move forward, location of the subject property, obviously critical to value, is shown on page number 4. So it is fairly deep into that residential area off of Main Street. So it really has no comparison essentially to property that would have exposure on a Main Street or a Henderson or things of that nature in terms of visibility, in terms of traffic flow, and obviously those drive desirability and value for vacant commercial parcels. So the immediate area is largely residential. There's a lot of multifamily development along both Leela and Partridge. If you head east of the subject property, you have vacant car storage lots, essentially for the automobile dealerships that are located on Main Street, and they stretch back quite a long ways from Main Street there. So that is the area that it's sitting within. Certainly not a commercial area at all, really. We can move forward to the valuation. So when we're looking at value for the subject property, we're looking at location. First of all, we're looking at the zoning of the parcel. We're looking at the size of it. And then we're looking at the commercial viability, so the visibility, the traffic flow, etc. So keep that in mind when we look at the comparables that we have here. So the subject property, zone C2, 11,492 square feet, and it's assessed at $35, $35.06 per square foot. So I've given you 4 comparables here. 2 of them are largely used to provide some background for the property. They're not necessarily ideal sales, but they're there for a reason. First one being 2480 Main Street, our first comparable. So this is a motivated sale. If you look at page number 6, it did transact in December 2019 at a rate of $37.47 a square foot, roughly the same size in zone C2. Now, it is located on Main Street, and the property immediately adjacent to it, and the comparables also shown in the city's evidence, property immediately adjacent to it is developed with a Great Canadian Oil Change. Now, the access to that Great Canadian Oil Change was always on this separate property. So the owners of that property had serious motivation to acquire this property in order to maintain the access to their property. You can see the aerial in the city's evidence showing where the access point to Great Canadian Oil Change is. So they were driven by the need to acquire that property in order to keep the access to their property instead of it going to another developer and being built up and then losing the direct access to their property. So that motivation drives the sale price there significantly higher. Beyond that, it's right on Main Street. You look at the location on page 7, it's in that area north of Chief Peguis. So we're getting into the relatively newly commercial developed area there. So you have that development centered around Brown's Social House. If you go slightly further north at Riverbend, you have the Sobeys based development and a number of other strip malls there, including Shoppers Drug Mart, etc. So very different area, very different exposure. That is the closest sale comp to the subject. We then move on to number 2, 775 Henderson, trading in October 2018, a little larger at 17,000 square feet, sells at $27.25 per square foot. Now, similar to Mr. Ducharme, there's not a lot of sales of C2 land that in the immediate area of the subject property to compare directly to it. So we need to go outside of that. So we're looking at this particular property here. As you can see, it's shown on my page number 8. It is a little further away from larger commercial development, and it is also not. It's also kind of in the North Elmwood area, so not quite as affluent an area as some of the other comparables that you have seen. So somewhat comparable in that way. Following that, comparable number 3, 469 St. Anne's, also zone C2, September 2019 sale, slightly larger again, 35,980 square feet, trading at $28.21 a square foot. Now, this is in the South St. Vital area. If you flip to page number 9, you can see the location of it. It's an excellent location for future development. The property has, I believe, 2 single-family residential homes that are on it, in addition to some vacant land at the rear. That property remains undeveloped as of the valuation date, but it is well located, obviously, on South St. Anne's, and is of a slightly more developable size as well at 35,000 square feet. You can get a larger development going there, which obviously enables you to build out for more tenancy, etc., creating more value for the developer. That particular area is a lower income residential area that it sits within. To the south of it, there is a much higher income residential area, and obviously significant traffic flow on St. Anne's. So that property traded $28.21 a square foot. Finally, my 4th comp, and you'll have questions about this, so I'll just answer them up front. It is significantly larger, 128,000 square feet. It is zone C2, sold in July 2019. The reason we've included this is it's a premier development site in the most in-demand area in the city, that being Waverly West and Bridgewater. There was a limited amount of commercial land that was available there for development. This property traded as shown at $28.43 a square foot. If you look at my page number 10, you can see the location of the property. So it is in that North Town Center development. It is kitty corner to the Save On Foods development in Bridgewater Center there. Obviously, lots of other development to the south of that. You can see the site plan as shown on the bottom of page number 10. They have 2-stage development that is being done on that site. 3 of the buildings are up at this point in time. I did not have an opportunity to run down there and take the pictures, but the 3 buildings that you see essentially fronting on Center and Northtown are up and occupied as well. Well, they're occupied with tenants as well as getting tenanted. So that is in existence. So we're looking at a sale, premium location, high demand, limited availability, and it trades at $28.43 a square foot. The return in that particular area, based on the rent that will be charged for those units, will be significantly higher. So that's why that particular property is presented. When we look at the bulk of the evidence and look at the subject property in comparison, it is in an inferior location in between unidirectional roadways without supportive commercial around. I believe we're being generous in valuing it at $28 per square foot. So that's the value we've placed on it. Gives us a final market value of $322,000. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Mr. Ducharme, do you have any questions?
I do not have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Whitbread?
I have none, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Knight, do you have any questions?
I actually do. You quoted 775 as North Elmwood. What would you declare Elmwood to be?
Sorry, what would I declare Elmwood to be?
So where do you think that Elmwood starts and finishes?
Well, unfortunately, I don't have a larger map here, but if we head over Disraeli, obviously Elmwood starts just over the bridge. I don't really have a northern boundary necessarily to place on it.
I've just never heard of that part of Henderson Highway being Elmwood. That's
okay.
Because
Fair
Elmwood
enough.
comes with a lower value, the name Elmwood, right? So and the assessor said that was East Kildonan, and that's why I'm asking.
Yeah, I guess to be fair, I would probably call it transitional, I suppose, in between the two, if you want to term it that way. That might be a more fair way of looking at it.
Okay, thank you.
And thank you. I have no additional questions, so I think unless anybody has anything else to add, that would conclude item number 1 on our agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks.
Okay, we'll just give some time for our other participants to come on.
Yes, Madam Chair, I'm just letting them in. Yeah, they are in.
Yeah, I see them.
Let's see them. Mr. Brujan, please state your full name.
Thank you. Wesley Van Bruggen.
Thank you. Do you affirm that the evidence you are about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do, but just so you know, Mr. Sharples will be the one that will be presenting today.
Okay, I can spell them in.
Excellent. Thank you.
Mr. Sharple, please state your full name.
Good morning, everyone. Grayson Sharples.
Thank you. Do you affirm that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Grayson and Mr. Van Bruggen. How are you guys today?
Very well. And yourself, Madam Chair?
Thank you. I'm well. We're going to deal with 95 Sutherland Avenue. Right. Before I begin, I just wanted to note that your application has 3 points of appeal on it: value, liability, and taxation. Is that correct?
That is correct. We will only be pursuing the question in terms of value, though, today.
Okay, so then when we introduce the property, I'll just make a note of that, and Mr. Kumar will help you deal with that process. You can note that it's been confirmed, or you won't be proceeding, okay?
Sounds good.
Okay, so we're now going to deal with item number 2, 95 Sutherland Avenue. I'll ask Mr. Ducharme to introduce the property first, and then we will just make a note officially of the withdrawal of those 2 points of appeal.
Sounds
Okay,
good.
Mr. Ducharme.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The file number is 22-816. The roll number is 140-999-57900. The address is 95 Sutherland Avenue. For the roll year 2023, with a reference date of April 1st, 2021, the assessed value is $165,000.
Okay, Mr. Ducharme, I'll ask you to stop. Okay, so I just want to confirm with Mr. Sharples and Mr. Van Bruggen that The appeal of liability and value are not going forward, correct?
Just value, nothing, not in terms of liability or tax classification.
Thank you very much. Okay, so having said that, we will allow Mr. Ducharme to carry on with his presentation.
Thank you. The parcel use is vacant commercial. Zoning is C1. The land area is 11,900 square feet. And our recommendation is to maintain the 2023 assessed value. On page 2 is a parcel view of the subject property. It's 11,900 square feet located in North Point Douglas neighborhood and has the C1 zoning. On page 3, the top is an aerial photo of the subject close to the Disraeli Bridge. And on the bottom, we see a Google Street View of the subject in question. On page 4 is the subject sales history. We have it September 7th, sale 2012. This did involve a multi-roll sale of 3 kids. So it doesn't really apply for this particular instance. The land valuation summary, we have an area of 11,900 square feet with a rate of $13.87 per square feet, with giving a land value of $165,000. Below that, the land sale comparables. Comparable 4 is in the same neighborhood as the subject, North Point Douglas. Comparables 1, 2, 3, and 5 are in adjacent neighborhoods to the subject. Comparable 3 is the same zoning, C1, as the subject. Comparables 1, 3, and 5 have the same medium traffic influence as the subject. On page 5, comparable 1, 651 Selkirk Avenue. It's located about 2.5 kilometers from the subject in an adjacent neighborhood. It has a same traffic medium influence as the subject, and it sold May 20th, 2020 for $16.06 per square foot. On page 6, we have comparable 2, 984 Main Street. It's located about 1.1 kilometers from the subject in an adjacent neighborhood. It's a corner lot similar to the subject and is shaped similar to the subject. It sold October 2018 for $21.69 per square foot. Comparable 3, 500 Bowman on page 7 is located about 2.5 kilometers from the subject, has the same land influences of medium traffic and corner as the subject, and it sold May 2017 for $26.12 per square foot. On page 8 is comparable 4, 895 Main Street. At the time of the sale, there was an old building which was demolished in September 2020. This one's located about a kilometer from the subject in the same neighborhood as the subject. It sold May 2019 for $23.57 per square foot. It was sold for the land as the building was demolished. On page 9 is just a picture of the vacant parcel, which is representative of the site as it is today. On page 10 is comparable 5, 390 Selkirk Avenue, which is located about 2 kilometers from the subject. It has medium traffic influence as well, and it sold July 6, 2017 for $14.88 per square foot. On page 7, the Municipal Assessment Act excerpts, and that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ducharme. Mr. Sharples, do you have any questions of the assessor's presentation?
I have no questions.
Thank you. Mr. Van Bruggen, do you wish to add anything?
Just a couple quick questions, Madam Chair, if
Sure.
we can. If we can turn to page 6. Just let me know when you're there.
Yes.
So this property would be located on 984 Main Street, correct?
Yes.
So would you say Main Street would probably be a better location for a commercial property compared to Sutherland?
It is, yes.
So this would be probably considered a superior property. Would that be a fair statement to make?
That would be fair statement, yes.
And then the same question goes for page 8 of your brief. That would be comparable for 895 Main Street. Again, located on Main, you would probably agree that this would be a superior comparable compared to the subject property, correct?
I would agree, yes.
All right, I think that concludes my questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Whitbread, do you have any questions?
Just noticing that all of your comparables are significantly smaller than the subject property. Were you unable to find any properties in the same square footage?
I suppose I wasn't able to, yes. I just noticing that now, yes.
So coming back to a
It
question.
must have been very difficult to, yeah, in this neighborhood to find. Or in
So
this
coming
region.
back to a question I asked you previously, then looking at economies of scale, the smaller
Right.
properties are higher in value than the larger properties. Is that correct again?
Yes.
Thank you. No further questions.
Thank you, Mr. Whitbread. Ms. Knight, do you have any questions?
I do not.
Okay. I note, Mr. Ducharme, that all of your comps, in addition, well, to Mr. Whitbread's point, the price per square foot is, in some cases, in 3 of your comps, significantly more than what you have this property assessed at. So of your comps, which one do you think is the best, given its size, location?
Good question. I'm leaning, I think, towards comparable 4, just being a slightly larger and in the same neighborhood as a subject.
Okay. Do you have a map that shows the location of all the properties together? Like, I know that might be hard because some of them are further away, but it would be a good sense of where they are in relation to the subject.
I do not have a map of all the
Okay.
properties. I do not include, sorry.
Okay, no, that's fine. I was looking for something and I couldn't find it either, so that's fine. It's got a slightly irregular shape. Does that make a difference to its valuation or not?
It could make a difference, yes.
In what? Okay, in what way could it make a difference?
And it might not be as desirable.
Okay,
Investor.
okay. But again, all your comps are higher valued than your subject, correct?
I believe so, yes.
Okay,
Yes.
okay. And are they all regular shaped?
Not to the, no, not like the subject, no.
Okay. Okay, that's all my questions. Mr. Sharples, when you're ready, you can begin your presentation, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have rebuttal evidence. Would you like me to present that before our?
No, I'll hear your main evidence first and then your rebuttal following, please.
Okay, perfect. So begin on page 3 of our document. So again, just a brief summary of the property. It's an 11,900 square foot parcel of vacant commercial land located in North Point, Douglas. The property has C1 zoning and has been assessed using the sales comparison approach to value. And again, it's been assessed at $165,000, and our requested amount would be $132,000. On page 4, we just have a snippet of the assessment information for this property. A few notes on this. There are 3 property influences that have been applied for a bus route, medium traffic, and external corner. On page 5, we just have our requested assessment. So we're requesting a land rate of $11.10 per square foot. And that yields a total value of $132,000. Just jump ahead to page 7. On this page, we just have an assessment map and a satellite map of the subject property, very similar to what was in the respondent's evidence package. And a few photos from street level of the property on page 8. And so our valuation can be found on page 9. You guys could just let me know when you're there.
I think we're good.
Okay, so the subject has been assessed with a land rate of $13.87 per square foot. We've also pulled some comparable sales here. We've looked at other properties with commercial zoning from the North End district. And we found that these sales are ranging in value from $9.61 per square foot to about $16.65 per square foot. And so a lot of these properties are found on Selkirk Ave. Again, a lot of these are kind of smaller than the subject property. You know, you're going into questioning the respondent on that. And I think it is just difficult to find sales in this area comparable in size to the subject property. We have on the following page, on page 10, provided a map of all the comparable sales we've used, just to show that they are all close in proximity to the subject property. And so just jumping back up to page 9, the average sale price per square foot of all these properties came out to $12.49, and the median came out to $11.10, both are below the assessed value of $13.87 per square foot. And we've pulled all of these sales from the Johnson report, which can be found starting on page 16 of our document and carrying on through page 23. And then again, just on page 11, to summarize briefly, we would be requesting the median land rate from our comparable sales of $11.10 per square foot and a total assessed value of $132,000. That concludes the presentation. I welcome any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Sharples. Mr. Ducharme, do you have any questions?
I guess I'm just wondering why you would choose the medium over the average. I know it's 409 Aberdeen is pretty low. Is that why?
I guess so. I mean, you could have used either, and it would have. I mean, either value would indicate that the subject has been overassessed. We could have used either. It's just kind of standard. We always take the median.
Yeah, that's the only question I have.
Thank you, Mr. Ducharme. Mr. Whitbread, do you have any questions?
I don't, thank you.
Ms. Knight?
When you're calculating price per square foot, is that the price that was paid or is that less or plus commissions?
It is the price that's listed on the Johnson report.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And do we know what Johnson report does?
I don't personally. Mr. Van Bruggen might.
Yeah, so I believe it's the information that's been registered on land titles is what's used
Okay.
when determining it. So that wouldn't be considering commissions.
Okay, thank you. I do have a question about your average. Is it just a straight average of the sales prices that you're using there, or did you do a weighted average that would take into account the land area?
It's just straight average.
Just a straight average? Okay. And you said it's your practice to use the median. Can you explain why?
I guess there could be some outliers on either end if we were taking the average. I kind of just see it as a better indicator of value. I mean, we could use either, but it's a fair question.
Do you see that the Aberdeen property and maybe the Selkirk property as outliers, or do you think they're not outliers? Also, I guess the one at 220 Selkirk. Well, there's a couple 16 buckers. So when I look at it, that was maybe not such a good question after all, once I look at it. Okay, when you do calculate though, you don't, or would you normally take out outliers, or would you just go for a straight median?
We would if it was something crazy. I mean, if we pulled up a sale and it was at $4 per square foot. We'd probably
Okay,
same thing if it was 25.
okay. All right. Thank you very much. That concludes my questions also. So I think we are done with item number 2, unless
Oh.
anybody has anything to add in summation.
Sorry, Madam Chair, there is rebuttal.
You have rebuttal.
Yes.
You have rebuttal. I'm sorry. Okay, Mr. Kumar, do we have the rebuttal evidence?
Yes, Madam Chair, I just put that into the folder and I have to
Okay.
bring a printed copy for Mr. Ducharme.
Okay, so let's take a 5-minute recess while we get ourselves organized for the rebuttal. Thank you. I'd like to call the meeting back to order. Mr. Sharples, we have your rebuttal evidence in front of us now, so you can proceed, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So yeah, again, just beginning on page 3, I'd like to address some things with these sales that have been provided by the respondent. So the first comparable 1, was 651 Selkirk Ave. This was included in our table that I just went over. We have no issue with this comparable. And then comparables 2 and 4, this is 984 and 895 Main Street. My colleague, Mr. Van Bruggen, brought this up in questioning, but a heavy traffic influence has been applied to both of these properties. And so we've looked at the 2019 Winnipeg traffic flow map, which can be found on the following page. And according to that, it shows that about 46,000 vehicles per 24-hour weekday pass through these properties. And so we would suggest that these properties are less comparable to the subject because of that exposure. And these 2 properties should be removed from the analysis. And then on page 4, I have arrows pointing to the location of these 2 properties just off Main Street and north of Selkirk Ave. We can also see from that the subject is not located on a major arterial roadway. Back up on page 3, we have comparable 3, 500 Bowman Ave. This property is located on the corner of Bowman Ave and Watt Street. Again, from the traffic flow map, this property has 13,000 vehicles pass by every weekday. This is on Watt Street. And again, it's not as many cars as the 2 on Main Street, but it still is more than the subject property, which we believe makes it less comparable. And this property is also pointed to on the map on page 4. This property is across the river in a different market area. So we believe that this property is less comparable to the subject and should be removed from the analysis as well. And then comparable 5, which was provided by the respondent, was 390 Selkirk Ave. In looking at this one, we believe it's an accurate comparable, and we've added it to our analysis, our reconciled analysis, which can be found on page 5. And so here we can see the third property down in the table is that 651 Selkirk Ave. That was the comparable 1 provided by the respondent. And we've added in that 390 Selkirk Ave at the bottom. And again, from this, the new average sale price is $12.71 per square foot, and the new median price is $11.63 per square foot. So again, from this, we maintain the position that the subject property has been overassessed. And again, just on page 6, we have our requested rental rate of $11.10 and the total requested value of $132,000. That concludes our rebuttal evidence. Welcome any questions.
Thank you. Mr. Ducharme, do you have any questions on the rebuttal evidence?
Just in regards to 500, like I agree with 2 and 4 on Main Street, yes. Comparable 3, 500 Bowman, our records indicate this comparable as having medium traffic influence, which is the same as the subject. We consider the subject to have medium traffic influence as well.
Okay, is there a question?
Oh, sorry. I guess the question would be, not a question, sorry, just a statement.
Okay. Would you like to ask any more questions?
No, I do not. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Whitbread, do you have any questions?
I have none, thank you.
Ms. Knight, do you have any questions?
What, on your traffic study, what would be the traffic pattern on Sutherland then? At your subject?
It's unclear. We don't have values
Yeah.
for that. Yeah, we don't have values for that.
And what would Higgins be? That's the closest main on the map. You don't have that number either.
Maybe I can jump in here. I believe Higgins in that area is probably, I think unfortunately, we don't have the enlargement of the center part. There is a secondary map that goes for the enlargement of the central area. I think looking at the map, it looked like going into Higgins is about 22,280 vehicles in a 24-hour period. But it's hard to say how that carries on all the way through that entire area.
Right. Okay, I was just looking because you were using it as a comparable, but not telling us what is on the street that you're looking at. That's why I was asking. Okay.
Unfortunately, when it comes to traffic counts, they don't do every street. It's only,
I understand that.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. That was my question too, about the traffic counts for the subject. Thank you very much. That concludes the questions on your rebuttal. Mr. Ducharme, do you have rebuttal evidence?
I do not.
Okay. And is there a requirement for summation, Mr. Ducharme?
No, thank you.
Okay. Mr. Sharples, Mr. Van Brogen?
I think we're okay, Madam Chair. I think it's fairly clear.
Okay, great. That concludes item 2 on our agenda. Give us a minute and we'll get to item 3 on our agenda. Okay, and just to confirm, Mr. Sharples, is this going to be you taking the lead on this one as well?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Ducharme, then when you're ready, you can begin with item 3 on our agenda, and that is 2 Scurfield Boulevard, please.
Thank you. The file number is 22-3384. The roll number is 030-916-614-00. The address is 2 Scurfield Boulevard. For the roll year 2023, with a reference date of April 1st, 2021, the assessed value is $1,446,000. The parcel use is a vacant commercial. The zoning is M1, manufacturing light. The area is 157,131 square feet. Recommendation is to maintain the 2023 assessed value. On page 2 is a parcel view of the subject property in West Fort Garry neighborhood. You can see it's abutting both Waverly Street and Scurfield with access off Scurfield Boulevard. On page 3 at the top is an aerial photo of the subject. Its current use is being used as parking for the adjacent business at 20 Scurfield. And on the bottom of page 3 is a Google Street View map or Google Street View of the subject. On page 4 at the top is our land valuation summary with an area of 157,131 square feet at a rate of $9.20 per square feet. We have a land value of $1,446,000. And below that is our land sale comparables. Comparable 1 is somewhat similar to the subject in area at 139,857 square feet. It is also zoned M1 and has similar heavy traffic influence as the subject. It sold June 10th, 2015 for $13.59 per square foot. Comparable 2 in an adjacent neighborhood to the subject It as well is similar in size to the subject. It is 157,621 square feet. It sold January 27th, 2014 for $11.42 per square foot. Comparable 3 in an adjacent neighborhood to the subject. It's larger than the subject at 207,777 square feet. It has the same heavy traffic influence as the subject. It sold March 24th, 2016 for $11.79 per square foot. Comparable 4 in the same neighborhood, West Fort Garry, as a subject. It is larger than the subject, much larger, 377,953 per square feet. It sold February 24th, 2017 for $15.87 per square feet. And comparable 5 in the same region, Fort Garry, as a subject. It's similar in size, 142,164 square feet. It sold September 22nd, 2014 at $13.80 per square foot. Go to page 5 of my brief, comparable 1, 425 Oak Point Highway. This property was purchased June 10th, 2015 for $13.59 per square foot. The top picture is representative of the property at the time of the purchase. The property was purchased for the land as the building was demolished in September of 2015. And then below that is the post-sale development with the new building, which was completed in 2017. Now a restaurant, store, truck stop, gas station. Page 6, comparable 2, Wilkes Avenue. It's circled in the picture next to the Golf Dome on Wilkes. This comparable is about 4.5 kilometers from the subject in an adjacent neighborhood to the subject. It's similar in area to the subject at 157,621 square feet, and it has an odd shape. It sold January 27th, 2014 for $11.42 per square foot. Comparable 3 on page 7, 1420 Waverly. This comparable is located about 1 kilometer from the subject in an adjacent neighborhood to the subject. Has the same heavy traffic influence as the subject. It has exposure to Waverly as well, similar to the subject. It sold March 24th, 2016 for $11.79 per square foot. Comparable 4 on page 8, 55 Fultz Boulevard. This comparable is approximately 3 kilometers from the subject in the same neighborhood as the subject, 661 West Fort Garry. Access to this comparable is limited. This comparable sold February 24th, 2017 for $15.87 per square foot. It's currently an automotive dealership. On page 9 is comparable 5, 1400 Keniston. It's located in the same region as the subject, has the same heavy traffic influence of the subject. It is relatively similar in size to the subject at 164,000 square feet. The shape of the parcel is irregular. It sold September 2014 for $13.80 per square foot, and it's been developed into an automotive dealership. Page 10 is the Municipal Assessment Act excerpts, and that would conclude my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ducharme. Mr. Sharples, do you have any questions about the assessor's presentation?
I have no questions.
Thank you. Mr. Van Bruggen, would you like to add anything?
No questions, Madam Chair. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Mr. Whitbread.
Just a question. Looking at your sales, they're all 5 to 7 years old. Did you make a comment earlier that all of these values have been adjusted for time?
No, these not have been adjusted for time at all. No, these were the sales at the date specified in this brief.
Okay, so that's sales price in 2014, that 1,800,000. Was that 2014? Okay.
Yes, that's what they paid in 2014.
No further questions.
Thank you very much. Ms. Knight, do you have any questions?
Which is your best comparable?
I'm thinking probably comparable 5. It's in the similar size in the same region.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and I have no additional questions. So Mr. Sharples, when you're ready, you can start your presentation, please.
Madam Chair, and similar to the last file, we do have rebuttal evidence. I'm assuming you'd like to proceed the same way.
Yes, and I'll remember this time.
Okay. Okay, so again, beginning on page 3 of our submission, the subject property is a 3.6 acre parcel of vacant commercial land in the West Fort Garry neighborhood, and it has been assessed using the direct comparison approach to value. It has been assessed at $1.446 million, which is an increase of about 95% from the previous assessment cycle. And so our requested assessment amount is $1,089,000. Jumping ahead to page 5 again quickly, just our requested assessment of $1,089,000, and that is a land rate of $302,734 per acre. On page 7, again, we have the assessment map and the satellite map. And on the following page, we have some street level photos of the subject property, which appears to be being used for parking by Shaw. And so our evaluation begins on page 9. So the subject has been assessed with a land rate of $401,667 per acre. And again, that's an increase of 94.62% from the previous assessment cycle. So we've looked at some comparable sales of similarly zoned manufacturing districts. And we found that these land parcels have transacted at rates ranging from about $212,000 to $675,000. Pretty wide range there. And then so considering the median land rate of $302,734 per acre, and the fact that there have been limited recent transactions of similar parcels, we believe that there's a lack of market evidence to support the land rate increase of 95% from the previous assessment cycle. So our first comparable sale here sold in January 2020. And then we have 3 sales from 2019. And we looked for similar manufacturing zoning in all these. And again, so our median rate was $302,734. And the average here was $373,097. So again, just in conclusion, our requested land rate would be $302,734 per acre, which is a total assessed value of $1,089,000 per acre. Thank you. I welcome any questions.
Thank you very much. Mr. Ducharme, do you have any questions?
Yes, I have a question and maybe a comment, if I'm allowed. I guess the question, I'm looking at the comparables that you provided. 733 Lagimoni Boulevard is significantly larger than the subject. Would you agree that the price per acre would be considerably lower just due to the sort of economies of scale for that property?
I would, yeah.
Thank you. And I'd just like to make a comment in regards to, he kept referring to an increase of 94.62% or 95%. That's in reference to the previous assessed value, which I believe was not allowed.
Yes, we're aware. Comparisons of assessments won't be considered. Thanks.
Thank you. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Whitbread.
I have nothing. Thank you.
Ms. Knight.
Which is your best comparable?
I believe it's the first comparable, one on Oak Point Highway. It has the same zoning as the subject property. It is fairly close in size at 2.71 acres, and it sold most recently in January of 2020.
Thank you.
Okay, so I just want to confirm, is the Oak Point Highway in your comparable the same as the one in the assessors?
I don't believe so.
I mean,
We
it's
have-
got a different
we have
sale
different-
date.
Yeah, we have
So-
different dates and prices listed, I believe.
Okay, and because my brain doesn't work as quick as most people's these days, you've done all of this in acres, and the assessor is presenting in square feet. So can you give me these sale price per acres in square feet, please?
Yeah. So
Since that's what we're comparing.
I have it here, Madam Chair, if you have to calculate it, sir.
Well, maybe we can ask Mr. Sharples, and then you can confirm your numbers
Sure.
through him.
Okay. Give me a few minutes. I do believe I have it.
Sure.
Madam Chair, if I may, I think in the applicant's evidence on where the Johnson report is, near the back
Okay.
is there is a listing for price per square foot.
Well, that's easier. Okay, so let me just write this down. So it's Oak Point is 118,126 at 628.
What page is that? Sorry.
Starts
Oh,
on
I see
page
it now. Got it
18.
now. Yeah.
So just looking at the comps, if I can just confirm that the property on Oak Point is 118,126 at 628 a square foot. Lage Modier is 523,314 square feet at 487 a square foot. Keniston is 324,249 at 1549 a square foot. And Nyaqua is 59,069 square feet at 762 square foot. Do I have those numbers right?
That would be correct, Madam Chair. And the
Okay, so what would be your median?
median would be $6.95 per square foot.
$6.95. And your average?
$8.56 a square foot.
And to confirm, that's not a weighted average, correct? So it doesn't take into account the square footage of the properties, just the straight average of the rate.
I believe so, correct.
Okay. Okay, that's all the questions I have then. And now your rebuttal evidence, please. Let's just make sure we have it.
Yeah, it's in the folder, Madam Chair.
Okay, and does our assessor have it as well?
Yes, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Let me just get it and I'll confirm with everybody that everybody has it. Okay, does everybody have the rebuttal evidence for 2 Scurfield Boulevard in front of them?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. All right, Mr. Sharples, when you're ready, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So again, I'll begin on page number 3. And again, we're just looking at the sale comparables provided by the respondent here. And so as noted, comparable number 4, which is 55 Fultz Boulevard, is the most recent transaction, which was more than 5 years ago and 2 years earlier than the oldest sale presented by MMP. And so considering that the respondent has not provided any recent sales, it remains our position that there's a lack of market evidence to support the assessment increase from the previous assessment cycle. And additionally, in looking at the zoning of the comparable properties, the subject property was assessed with M1 zoning, and comparables 2, 3, 4, and 5 provided by the respondent are all M2. And I acknowledge as well that we had the one comparable at in Kenniston that had manufacturing zoning. So in removing comparables 2, 3, 4, and 5 from the respondent and number 3 from ours, we've provided just a table here with all the values for properties with M1 zoning. And again, unfortunately, these are in dollars per acre, but the median remained the same at $302,734 per square foot, and the average is $352,361 per acre. I apologize. And so again, we would maintain that this $302,734 per acre is a more accurate representation of market value, and our total requested value would be $1,089,000. Thank you. Welcome any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Sharples. Mr. Ducharme, do you have any questions?
No questions. No.
Okay. Mr. Whitbread?
I have none, thanks.
Ms. Knight?
I have none. Thank you.
Okay, and I don't either. Mr. Ducharme, is there a desire for summation?
Just in regards to the rebuttal, I mean, as you can imagine, as indicated by the applicant, market evidence for vacant land of this size is difficult to find. I have provided older sales. However, you know, again, they support the subject, and in fact, being older sales, we know land values have gone up, and so these, I think these would be appropriate to include.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Sharples, do you have a desire for summation?
I have no need. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Van Bruggen, do you have anything to add?
I think we're okay. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. Then that concludes item number 3 on our agenda, and I think that's it for Mr. Sharples and Mr. Van Bruggen as well, right?
Yeah, it is. Thank you very much, everyone, for your time. Have a lovely rest of the day.
Thank you very much.
Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, let's just take a 10-minute recess before we start with the remaining, which are all Collier's properties. Thank you. I'd like to call the meeting back to order. I guess on the first thing we need to do is we need to swear in Mr. Neufeld, please.
Yes, Mr. Mr. Neufeld, please state your full name.
Rocky Neufeld.
Thank you. Do you affirm that the evidence you are about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we'll now continue on our agenda with item number 4. property on Henlow Bay. Can I confirm, please, that the issue brought forward relates to valuation?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Ducharme, when you're ready, please.
Thank you. The file number is 22-3286. The roll number is 030-914-50200. The address, it's on Henlow Bay. For the roll year 2023, with a reference date April 1st, 2021, the assessed value is $249,000. The parcel use is vacant commercial, the zoning is M2, and the land area is 16,718 square feet. Our recommendation is to maintain the 2023 assessed value. Page 2 is a parcel view of the subject property that's located in the West Fort Garry neighborhood. On page 3, the top photo, an aerial view of the subject property, and in the middle, we can see that the subject property is used for extra parking or staging of vehicles for the adjacent automotive dealership. And on the bottom is a Google Street View picture of the subject property. On page 4, there's no recent subject sale history. And below that's our land valuation summary with an area of 16,718 square feet at a rate of $14.89 per square foot. We have a land value of 249,000 square feet. And below that are the comparables. It was difficult to find comparables for this kind of property. Comparable 1 is smaller. It's 11,537 square feet. It sold October 6, 2014 for $19.50. Comparable 2 is larger than the subject property at $20,810. It sold January 17th for 2012 for $18.02 a square foot. Comparable 3 at 1,500 Seal is less in area at 5,625 square feet. It is zoned M2. It sold September 19th, 2016 for $20.27. And comparable 4 on 720 Erin. It's similar in size, 18,521 square feet. It sold June 6, 2017 for $21.60 per square feet. Going to page 5 of my brief, comparable 1, 2020 Logan Avenue. It was purchased with the building. And then we see it's smaller than the subject property. It was purchased for the land. The property was purchased in October 2014 for $19.50 per square foot. The building was demolished in September of 2015, and it's currently being used for parking or an extension of the business by the adjacent property at 2010 Logan. Comparable 2, 584 Wall Street, is larger than the subject. It was purchased in January 2012 for $18.02 per square foot. It is also being used for parking by business on Portage Avenue. On page 7, comparable 3, 1,500 Seal Avenue. This one is smaller than the subject, zones it the same as the subject. It sold September 2016 for $20.27 per square foot. There's currently a 3,000 square foot commercial building for a vehicle service repair shop on that site. Comparable 4, 720 Erin Street. It's about 2,000 square feet larger in area than the subject. It was purchased in June 2017 for $21.60 per square foot. And it's currently being used for parking by a nearby business at 665 Erin Street. And that would conclude my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ducharme. Mr. Neufeld, do you have any questions of the evidence presented by the assessor?
Yes, I do. Sorry. Your sales comparables, they're all from different parts of the town. You didn't have any from Fort Garry? Or the area? Except for
No, I did not.
And what did you, how did you account for the configuration of the subject?
How would I account for the shape of the subject?
Yes, that's correct.
How do I account for this shape of the subject? I'm not sure I understand the question.
Yeah, I mean,
The rectangular shape,
sorry, did you check the zoning on this?
the subject is, I believe, M1.
Close enough, it's
Sorry,
M2.
M2.
Did you look at the setbacks for M2?
No.
Well, you're aware that the setback on M2 zoning is, just want to make sure I quote this correctly, and I'm reading from my own evidence, is a 25-foot front yard for the setback.
I was not aware.
Okay, and this fronts on Henlow, so that setback then has to run across Henlow. Now that's the subject is. I don't. Do you have the dimensions on the subject?
Just the square footage, not the
width nor the depth. Okay.
No.
So I'm looking at the city's map, and I have 75 feet as the depth. So with the 25-foot setback, front setback, 1/3 of the lot is not developable. And I'm just wondering if your other comparables have that same ratio.
No, I would assume not. No.
Okay. And considering that lack of utility, was there anything taken to account for it?
No.
Now, the other question is, did you check with property planning and development to see if access would be granted from Henlow?
I did not check with PP&D, no.
So if a property does not have access, does that impact its value?
Yes, it would.
Thank you. Those are my questions.
Thank you, Mr. Neufeld. Ms. Knight, do you have any questions?
I do not.
Thank you. Mr. Whitbread.
I do not, thanks.
Okay, I just want to follow up on something Mr. Neufeld said. Where is the access to this property currently?
Henlow, it'd be like Henlow Bay itself, right? Off Skirfield down Henlow Bay or Dovercourt?
So there's a...
Or through the parking lot itself. Sorry, through the parking lot itself.
So currently there is no access at all from the street?
Not from the street, I guess, no. I think there's a little boulevard. Yeah, we can see that picture. There's on the bottom of my page 3, a boulevard in the way there from Henlow. So it have to be access.
If this property was ever sold separately, could there be access?
I don't know if I don't know. Apparently not, because of the setback issue.
And what does the M2 zoning entail?
I added on a previous. I think with M2 there's some storage and some operational use outside the building. In a general sense.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, Mr. Neufeld.
Thank you. I'm not sure if I need to enter this as rebuttal. I'll give it verbally, and if there's a need to, I have documentation. Part of the presentation, but the subject land is a former rail spur that was closed about 20 years ago, a little over 20 years ago. It was a siding, and the land was sold by the rail line, and at that time the auto mall had built up, and so all the auto dealers bought the spurs behind them. Shaw bought the spur behind them, and another part of the spur was actually purchased by the city to allow Folks Boulevard to be developed, and that's a bit further east. At the time, the parties were under the impression that they would be granted access to Henlow from this lot. And most all the dealers began construction of their approaches. In the last 10 years, all the approaches were closed by property planning and development. They did not allow access to Henlow. So and none of them have the access right now. If you look in the historical imagery, and that's what I have it somewhere, they all attempted to have the access, but the city closed it. The other issue with it is, as I mentioned, the zoning on page, bulk zoning, which is on my page 7. All M zoned land has the 25-foot front yard. So the front yard is Henlow. The property has a depth of 75 feet. Dimensions are actually, I have to do my metric calculation here, 75 depth by 220 foot width. So fully 1/3 of the land can't be used, and that's an extremely high percentage on the setback. The land was not, the intent was for all of these dealers was to get the property, have access to Henlow, which provides another way out to service from the rear. And remember, Henlow is an industrial neighborhood, so the advantage for them would be able to take their vehicle deliveries through the back door, and their tow trucks coming in back and forth through the back door, and then the customers in smaller vehicles through the front. And that was never possible. Now, some of this confusion had to deal with property and planning, thinking, well, you're selling a rail spur, you should amalgamate it. You can't. The rail spur is a fee simple title. All of the lots in the auto mall are condominium titles that cannot be amalgamated. So it can never be, in appraisal, we have the concept of assemblage. It can never be legally assembled because of the difference in the titles. And so now I guess we'll call it a accessory use parcel to the main parcel. No primary value on its own. Now, an accessory use is not something that has a value. It's only a value to the owner. It's not a value to the real estate. It does give them extra parking room, yes, but it's not marketable. So in cases like this, we've considered, there have been some case law on non-marketable land where in some cases, very unique properties, they changed the assessment to $10 because of this issue. Now, that's not what we're suggesting. What we are suggesting is that we put this at the lower end of the range for value of land, given these the impossibility of being able to market it, have an approach, and the yield on it, which is impossible to actually develop properly. So we had looked at a number of sales in the area, and now if you look at the sales we've used now, the first 5 sales, the zoning was agricultural at time of sale. However, this is all assemblage land in Waverly West, where they had already had planning approval that it was going to be rezoned. There was no issue at all. The planning was 100% decided. These were being assembled to form larger lots in Waverly West, and the pictures on all of them are below. The services had been paid for predominantly by grants from the provincial government and the city, and I think there's some federal money. I think it was like $58 million to extend services in Waverly West. So cost, legality are not factors with these assemblage properties that we have listed in our back, and you can see that some of them ended up being right on town center for Waverly West, and that was the value for these people of $3.50 a foot. As I said, one could say, well, they're agricultural zone, but they had permissibility to do so much more. We have M2 zoning with permissibility to do nothing. So conceptually, it was just that was the struggle. We believe that a nominal value would be fair, but the concept of market value is not served by a value that's not doesn't recognize its limitations. Now, regardless of what the value is, now you can see that we've had this argument for 20 years. Every year the city comes out and says, these lots, I represent most all the owners on this old rail spur. Every year the city comes out and says, oh, it's worth $20 a foot or something like that. And every year we have this issue where we go back and forth as to what the value should be. And you can see last year, I have forgotten the number it started with last year. They came back and settled at $100,000 the board. We didn't appeal it. That was fair. That's fine. It's something that has to be recognized on the value of the land. And I wish that we would have been able to resolve this permanently, although it makes my business great. It's not fair to the people who bought this land and found out after the fact that they cannot get access and there's nothing they can do with it. They can't offer it for sale if they'd like to somebody and get $1 for it because there's nothing anyone can do with it. And that's the premise of market value. Thank you. That's my argument, presentation, everything.
Thank you, Mr. Neufeld. Mr. Ducharme, do you have any questions?
Do you have any questions? Thank you.
Sorry, no questions?
No questions. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Whitbread.
I have none. Thanks.
Ms. Knight.
I do not. Thank you.
Okay. Well, then I think that concludes item number 4, Henlow Bay, unless anybody has anything to add in summation.
No, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Let's move to item number 5 on our agenda. It's a property on Pembina Highway. Mr. Neufeld, can you confirm that there are 3 points of appeal on this property, value, class, and liability?
Oh, yes, that's correct.
Okay, then I will ask the assessor to introduce the property, including as far as assessed value, and then Mr. Neufeld, the floor will be yours to discuss classification and liability first. And then when we're done with that piece, the assessor will move to valuation.
I just wanted to, before we start with the entering the role, we have we have 3 more properties to deal with, and
yes.
2 of the 3, this one and 1269 St. Anne's, it's the same issue in regard to the class, in that it's zoned. I'm not arguing now, just telling you that what's happening. It's zoned a C2 and it's being assessed as class 60, and it's for future residential development. We had Mr. Mercury was supposed to be here and he wasn't available, and I had asked the board if they would consider making allowance for that so that he could present the argument on class for this property as well as 1269 St. Anne's. I'm wondering if we can't adjourn both of these. We have another hearing from this afternoon that was adjourned because he's not available, and I'd ask the board if they would consider moving those to that hearing when it does get heard.
Okay,
I don't think I should be arguing legal issues. That's
okay. We will recess for a few minutes to discuss this first. Thank you. Before we start, Mr. Neufeld, item number 7 also has 3 points of appeal. I'm assuming you want that one to be treated in the same way as Pembina Highway and 1269 St. Anne's Road?
No, I think the assessor has permission to change the classification on that. We've already discussed it. It was just these two that were the classification issue. And coincidentally, these two I'm asking for have the same owner, and they are actually not even my clients. They are Mr. Mercury's clients. So Mr. Mercury is really the one who should be here. But no,
Okay.
Sherburne is, I think we've agreed on.
Okay, so Mr. Ducharme, you're okay with adjourning the other two and proceeding with item 7?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so when we go back on record, Mr. Neufeld will indicate that item number 5 and number 6 will be adjourned to a later hearing. And I'm presuming that there'll be some evidence submitted for that or shared with the assessor.
Oh, absolutely, yes.
At this point, there's nothing. Okay. All right, then let's go back live, Mr. Kumar, and we will.
We are live, madam, already.
Oh, we're live now?
Rewind.
Okay, then the panel has had its discussion and we will agree to adjourn item number 5 and item number 6 to a later hearing to enable Mr. Mercury to attend the hearing. Okay, so now we will resume with item number 7. There's no civic address on this. Let's just wait until we bring it up. Okay, the owner is the Addictions Foundation of Manitoba. Mr. Ducharme, you can take us through up to assessed value, and then because the issue is one of classification and liability, we'll ask Mr. Neufeld to speak to his evidence first. Okay, so Mr. Ducharme, you can start by introducing the property, please.
Thank you. The file number is 22-3487. The roll number is 103-206-66000. The address is Sherburne. For the roll year 2023 with a reference date April 1st, 2021, we applied an assessed value of $107,000.
Thank you very much. Okay, Mr. Neufeld, because we're dealing with classification and liability, you may go first, please. You're on mute. Okay.
Yes, thank you. I think the assessor and I have come to agreement on a change in class, and that was the only issue at stake. If he's willing to speak to it now, I think, and just to confirm that it was being changed to 40 school exempt.
And can you tell us what the current classification is?
I think it's 60T.
And you're requesting a 40 school tax exempt on what basis?
It's a parking lot for the Addictions Foundation of Manitoba at 1031, 1041 Portage. They are school exempt under the Act, and their accessory parking is also part of that exemption. And I think it was just a minor oversight on everyone's part.
Okay. And can you tell me what provision of the Municipal Assessment Act the exemption is provided, please?
Certainly. I have to, just call that up on the screen. It's section 23(1). I would believe it's section A. No. Yeah, section AI, which is a home, home stay, no.
That's
Here we
okay,
go.
maybe
Sorry. 23(1)E.
E.
Yes, owned by, held in trust, used by a charitable organization, primarily for the purpose of giving relief or assistance to aged, indigent, or sick persons.
Okay. Okay, perhaps I can just ask Mr. Ducharme to comment on this from the assessment and taxation perspective.
Well, we agree. This is a registered charity with the government of Canada, CRA, and we agree with the class code change to 40S under the legislative authority MAA 23(1)E. Exempt code 56 charitable.
Okay. How does the maximum exemption of 0.81 hectares work in this case?
Well, I think that it's a exemption that goes to the parent parcel as well as the total of the area. So I'm just looking up 1031. There's two buildings, two rolls, 1031 and 1041, and I believe that the 0.181 hectare is 2 acres. So 1031 Portage is 11,000 square feet, so that's a quarter of an acre. And 1041 is 32,000 square feet, so about 3/4 of an acre. So between the two buildings combined, they're only at an acre.
Okay.
This lot is then well within with adding that lot in another 3,000 square feet, so we're slightly over an acre, so well under the 2 acres.
Okay. Okay. Does a member of the other members of the panel have any questions? I'm sorry, I went out of order a little bit there.
I do not.
I don't.
Okay. Is there a need to review the valuation? Are you in agreement with the valuation, Mr. Nichow?
Yes, we are.
Okay. Okay, so then, with that in mind, I believe we've heard all items on our agenda today, and this hearing is now adjourned.